Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take your source material, the articles, the research, all that essential reading, and we really just pull out the vital knowledge. We're here to help you, the learner, get informed without that huge time sink.
Which is so necessary now. I mean,
Yeah.
the challenge isn't finding information anymore, is it? It's filtering it. So easy to mistake just being exhausted from scrolling for actually being productive.
Oh, absolutely. You get to the end of the day and realize you've consumed hours of content but have zero insight to show for it.
Exactly.
And that distinction you just made, consumption versus insight, that is the perfect setup for the source we're tackling today. We're doing a deep dive into excerpts from social media, discipline and purpose.
It's a title that really says it all.
It does. It feels less like a book title and more like a, I don't know, a diagnosis for what we're all feeling.
Mhm.
So, okay, let's unpack this. The core idea, right there in the title, is why social media requires discipline and purpose.
And those words are so significant. I mean, when an author chooses words like discipline and purpose,
Uh-huh.
they're immediately reframing the whole conversation.
How so?
Well, it's no longer about a leisure activity, right? It's
Yeah.
a demanding practice. The source is essentially arguing that these platforms are so inherently chaotic that you need a framework. It's not optional. It's about survival.
That's a really powerful critique. It kind of flips the script. It puts the burden of getting value not on the platform or the algorithm, but back on you, the user.
Precisely. If you're not getting anything out of it, the problem isn't just the endless feed of content. It's your approach to it.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating here is, we spend so much time talking about what the algorithms are doing to us, but this source forces us to ask a different question. It's about how we as learners can actually overcome those mechanics to get what we
A
need.
shift from analyzing the system to optimizing the user.
You've got it.
Okay, so let's start with the first piece of that puzzle, and maybe the harder one, discipline. It sounds so strict, almost monastic. I mean, these platforms are engineered to be easy, frictionless, even addictive. So why on earth does the author insist that discipline is the first requirement? It feels like fighting gravity.
Well, that's because we are fighting gravity, or at least we're fighting some very, very smart behavioral engineering. The author points out that discipline is necessary because of how these platforms are built. They run on what's called a variable reinforcement schedule.
Okay, so like a slot machine for information.
Exactly like a slot machine. You keep pulling the lever, you keep scrolling because you know a reward. That one interesting post, that one useful link might be just around the corner, even if the last 20 things you saw were junk.
And discipline is the countermeasure to that design.
It's the only countermeasure. It's
Yeah.
about imposing structure, self-control, a focused effort where the platform wants you to just, passively consume. Without it, you just default to the path of least resistance.
And that path is designed for their profit, not my learning.
Right.
But I think we need to break down what discipline actually means here. It's too easy to just say, oh, use it less.
It's much more than that, yeah. The research points to three main dimensions of discipline. First, the obvious one is temporal discipline, time management.
Setting timers, having specific windows when you log on and log off, non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Then there's a more subtle one, emotional discipline. That's the self-control you need when you see something that just makes your blood boil.
Which happens every 5 minutes.
Right. And the disciplined user understands that getting into that fight, even if you're right, is just a total waste of cognitive energy. Energy that could have been spent learning something.
And the third one.
The third is maybe the most important for a learner. It's information filtering discipline. This is like, it's a constant mental guardrail. You logged on to find data on AI ethics, but suddenly you're watching a video about a celebrity chef.
The rabbit hole.
Discipline is that little voice in your head that snaps you back on task. It forces you to ignore what's tangentially interesting, but ultimately irrelevant.
Okay, I see the structure now. So temporal discipline protects your time. Emotional discipline protects your focus.
And information discipline protects your goal.
And all three work together to manage your overall, cognitive load?
That's the crux of it, yeah.
Yeah.
If you just let the fire hose of content blast you, you spend all your mental energy just processing noise instead of consolidating what's actually useful. Discipline it's the prerequisite for actually learning anything.
That feels like a perfect transition, because discipline is the how, but it doesn't mean much without a direction. So let's pivot to the other side of this, purpose. But here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Go on.
What if my purpose is just to relax, zone out after a long day? Isn't demanding a rigorous purpose for that just a bit much? Does every single interaction have to have a goal?
I think the author would argue, well, yes. If your goal is to actually extract value, and especially if you're coming at it as a learner, the source seems to imply that logging on to relax is often just a nicer way of saying logging on to be randomly distracted.
Which isn't very relaxing in the end.
And it's definitely not efficient.
So purpose is the why that comes before the what. It's the intentional goal you have before you even open the app. What kind of purposes are we talking about here?
For a knowledge seeker, they mostly fall into three buckets. You've got your educational purpose, like I'm going to track what these three specific experts are saying about climate models.
Okay.
Then professional purpose. I need to monitor what my competitors are announcing or, new industry regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, a focused social purpose, which isn't just random chat. It's more like I'm going to connect with these three colleagues to discuss our shared project.
And the argument is that anytime you log on without one of those, it's basically wasted time.
It's inherently wasteful.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. If you walk into a massive library with the purpose of finding one specific article on, say, 18th century philosophy, you don't start by browsing the new fiction section, do you?
No, you go straight to the index.
Your purpose is the filter against everything else. It's what keeps you from getting lost in the stacks.
So purpose is the anti-algorithm. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
The platform's algorithm wants to maximize my screen time by feeding me whatever it thinks will keep me glued.
Right, anything that gets an emotional reaction.
But my purpose acts as my own personal self-imposed filter. It overrides their sorting mechanism. I can program my own behavior to just ignore 90% of what it's throwing at me.
Exactly. You only search for specific things. You only click on specific profiles. Suddenly, you're turning passive scrolling into an active search. Without purpose, it's all just noise. With purpose, it becomes an actionable data point, a piece of knowledge.
So we have discipline as the boundary and purpose as the direction. But let's go back to that word in the source's title. Requires. Why a necessity? Why not just a helpful suggestion?
Because the cost of not being intentional is just too high. The source argues that without the combination of both discipline and purpose, the user is going to suffer from two things: cognitive depletion and opportunity cost.
Cognitive depletion. That's the mental burnout from just trying to process everything.
Yes. And opportunity cost is all the valuable stuff you didn't do because you were stuck in that scroll vortex for 40 minutes. The platforms are literally designed for us to pay those costs without even realizing it.
Yeah, so discipline and purpose together are the architecture you build to avoid paying that cost.
They're the complete architecture. One without the other isn't enough.
Okay, let's try to make this more concrete. Let's use an analogy. The source is saying we have to stop treating social media like a comfortable park bench where we just sit and watch the world go by.
Exactly. We need to treat it like a specialized, high-powered tool. Think of an electron microscope in a lab.
Okay, I like that. When you walk up to an electron microscope, you need discipline, right? You need the specific training to operate it correctly. Otherwise, you'll just break it or waste the sample.
And you definitely need a purpose. You're looking for a very specific cellular structure or data point. You're not just peering in randomly because things look pretty.
Right. If you approach that $500,000 machine with no plan and no skill, you get nothing. You might even do some damage.
And social media is an infinitely more complex and, frankly, dangerous instrument for our attention. When you open that app without a clear purpose, you're just randomly turning the knobs on your own focus, hoping something useful appears.
So let's run through two scenarios then, the way the author might see it.
Okay. Scenario A, the passive user. They open an app just to see what's happening.
We've all been there.
We all have. They spend 40 minutes, they click on a few random links, get a little spike of anger from a headline, and by the end, they've totally forgotten why they even opened it.
And the outcome. 40 minutes gone, zero actionable knowledge gained, and probably a slight increase in anxiety.
Now, scenario B, the intentional user. They define their purpose first. Find 3 recent statistics on Q3 market trends for renewable energy.
They set their discipline guardrail. 15 minutes maximum and no clicking on personal stuff.
They go in, they run the search, they pull out the 3 stats they need, and they close the app at minute 14.
The outcome there is knowledge gained, goal achieved, and their cognitive load is still low. They can move on to the next task.
The difference is night and day, and that core insight from the source is that this intentionality, it's non-negotiable if you want to get any real sustainable value.
It requires actual cognitive labor, not just passive input. So what does this all mean? For you, the learner, trying to get up to speed quickly, the big takeaway from this deep dive is that you really need a pre-login ritual.
Yes, built around these 2 ideas: Discipline is what makes you efficient with your time and energy. Purpose is what makes you efficient in selecting what information you even look at.
They work together. They turn the platform from a source of chaos into a defined research tool.
They help you cut through the noise and get straight to the signal.
We'd almost recommend what you could call, I don't know, the 30-second purpose ritual. Before you click that icon, just pause. Pause and finish the sentence. I am opening this app right now to find X, and I will close it when Y happens.
I love that. That's really actionable. Because X defines your purpose and Y defines your discipline. It's all right there.
It sets the entire frame for the interaction.
It does. And maybe as a final thought to leave you with, something to explore on your own that builds on this. If purpose dictates what you seek and discipline dictates your time, what unexamined purpose is guiding you right now? Even when you think you're being passive, you're not.
Yeah.
What outcome are you actually optimizing for when you open an app without a conscious plan? Is it distraction? Is it validation? Emotional comfort? Identifying that unconscious goal? That's the real key to mastering your digital world.
That is a fascinating and maybe slightly uncomfortable challenge to internalize. We hope this deep dive into why your digital life requires discipline and purpose has given you the framework you need to start gaining knowledge with intentionality, starting today. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.